Hi, I'm Curtis Knight, real estate broker and realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And let's jump right into what we're talking about today, and that is what is a pre-qual, a pre-approval, a commitment letter, and clear to close. As a realtor and a broker, I'm frequently asked by home buyers who I recommend. After years of research, I have chosen Ross Mortgage as my preferred lender. I've dealt with 20 or 30 different mortgage companies, and these people have their act together and they are really intelligent, very down to earth, and extremely responsive. You can reach them all hours of the day and night, 10 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night, cell phones. So when we need answers to questions, it's nice to be able to get in touch with the people who are handling our loan transaction. And because they are local, they care a lot more about every single loan than some of the huge big box lending institutions. So below is a brief explanation of industry terms that home buyers need to know to move smoothly through the home buying process. If you need clarity on any of this, I have contact information for the CEO of Ross Mortgage. That's Bob Kalagher. Nice guy, down to earth, very smart. You can call him anytime. He will tell you everything he knows, and there's no charge for it. And the same goes for me. You can call me on my cell, text me, or email me anytime, and I'm happy to let you know what the meanings are of things that you come up against. So let's look. Pre-qualification letter. So I'm going to use Ross Mortgage as my reference because anytime I can recommend them, I usually do. And I have found that working with them, I get the quickest and the best and most accurate results. The rate is usually the best available rate that I see people getting, and the speed with which they work and the accuracy, I haven't seen it, and I've dealt with a lot of different lending institutions. So at Ross Mortgage, when you go for a pre-qualification letter, the basic differences between a pre-qualification letter and a pre-approval letter basically is this. A pre-qualification letter, basically you get on the phone with a loan officer and that loan officer asks you a few questions. How much debt do you have? How much do you make at your day job? And a couple of other questions. You give those answers, which are usually not completely accurate. You'll think, well, how much do I have on credit card? I have about $6,000, and it turns out you have $10,000. So it's a big difference what people actually sometimes think their position is and what it actually is. So with a pre-qualification letter, you answer a few questions. The loan officer takes down the answers from you and then generates a pre-qualification letter that says, congratulations, your name, buyer. You are pre-qualified based on the information you have supplied up to $450,000. And that's how much you can spend. It also says in that letter to protect them, this is not a commitment to give a loan. It's simply based on the information you've given us, what you would be able to spend on a home if all the information you gave us is accurate and if there are no other issues when we do the underwriting of your loan. And underwriting is a polite word for investigation. And they investigate you to see if you have any problems in your past that would be a red flag so that you shouldn't get a loan. So at Ross Mortgage, the loan officer reviews your income documents, your asset docs, like do you own your car? Do you own a property right now? Just anything that belongs to you. What's the value of it and how much of it do you have paid off? How much equity do you have in it? And they run your credit, and then they do an automated underwriting to confirm loan eligibility. With other lenders, the pre-qual means they ask you if your credit is good and they ask you how much you make and they ask you how much money you have. They usually don't review documents and they don't pull credit and don't ask additional questions to uncover potential obstacles. So this can lead to problems later in the process. And because I've been around the block a few times and I am a battle-scarred veteran of real estate, I've seen a lot of people run into problems halfway through the underwriting process, and they're all excited to have their new home and they've signed their contract and the other side has signed it and we're moving toward closing, and then all of a sudden the underwriting department finds a problem that we can't get past and the deal falls apart and a few people cry, and that's that. So that's the pre-qualification letter. It's usually just based on what the buyer says. So now we get into the pre-approval letter. And once again, I do business with Ross Mortgage frequently, and I think they're a very good lender. So I'm kind of using them as an example in this little thing that I put together for you. So Ross Mortgage is the same as a pre-qual. They do the same information check that they said that they do, which is the loan officer reviews the income docs, the asset docs, and credit, then runs automated underwriting to confirm loan eligibility. This is more than anybody else I have seen in the business do, and it's part of the reason that I gravitated toward Ross Mortgage, because they are belt and suspenders. And if you can get a pre-qualification letter from Ross Mortgage, that's as good as a pre-approval letter from most other lenders that I have dealt with. So back to the pre-approval letter. That's the next notch up above the pre-qualification letter. Pre-approval letter means that you've had your credit run. So at Ross Mortgage, it's the same as a pre-qual, but the underwriter reviews after the loan officer's review. So you have two people who double check each other to make sure your information is accurate. At the other lenders, a lot of them, not all of them, loan officer reviews income docs, asset docs, credit, then runs an automated underwriting to confirm loan eligibility. So that's kind of what we heard about the Ross Mortgage pre-qualification letter. And typically a pre-qual or a pre-qualification letter is the least powerful of the letters that you get that make you accepted as a buyer with your letter in your hand that says you can spend the money to buy the house. There's the pre-qualification letter, then there's the pre-approval letter. And when I've been a buyer agent in the past, I will frequently submit a pre-qualification letter with my buyer's offer to purchase a home. And on occasion, the selling agent will reply back to me by email and say, Curtis, would you be able to turn that pre-qualification letter into a pre-approval? So pre-approval means more homework has been done, more investigation has been done, and guaranteedly there has been a hard pull on the credit. So it's important that you know the difference between a pre-qualification letter and a pre-approval letter. FYI, and here's another one of your takeaways. A pre-qual is all you usually need to get your offer accepted. I'm going to rough guess 9 times out of 10 or more. All you need is a pre-qual letter. So that's all I ask for if you're a buyer and you say, can you help me, take me through the process? And I say, let's get you pre-qualified first. All I want is a pre-qualification letter. We don't have to have a pre-approval letter. Then we have the fully underwritten pre-approval letter. So underwriting is the process that you go through as a buyer once your loan offer has been accepted. So you and I go out, we find a house, you turn to me and say, I love this house, I want to make an offer. And I say, well, all right, they're asking for $399,900, $400,000 practically, $399,900. What do you want to offer? And sometimes the buyer will say, well, what do you think? And I say, and it depends on what's going on. If there were 50 people at the open house, and if I call the agent right before we put the offer in, and I say, how many offers do you currently have in hand? And they say, well, we have 5 in hand, and I'm expecting about 10 more. That means your offer needs to be higher because we have a lot of competition. But if I call the selling agent just before I send your offer over, and I say, how many offers do you have in hand? And the seller agent says, well, I don't have any right now, but I'm getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails. They don't have any offers, so we don't have to go so high. We can go at asking or a little bit under asking. And if we do go at asking or a little bit under, I ask the buyer, I ask you, if they say no, your offer for $400,000 is declined by the seller. I say, okay, here's my verbal. I want to up my offer to 410. I want to up my offer to 420. May I have your permission to immediately make a counter offer right on the spot? If they say, nope, 400,000 is declined. I say, okay, how about 410? How about 420? Because we don't want to let this house get away. You like it. You put in an offer for it. So I want to use what I've learned as a realtor to help you get this house. And one thing I've learned is you have to be fast and you have to be ready. You don't have time to think on your feet. It's like a quarterback. When the quarterback fades back and is waiting to throw the ball, the average in the NFL is 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 seconds before they unload that football. You can't stand around for 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds looking for someone who's open to throw the ball to, because it's over. The play is already over. The same thing kind of happens in real estate. If you say, well, they declined our offer, so let's let a couple of days go by and then we'll make an offer, the house is already going to be gone. So that's a strategy. The fully underwritten pre-approval letter, which is the screen that hopefully you're looking at right now, that means That 2 to 3 week underwriting process, and underwriting is another word for investigation. They investigate you for 2 to 3 weeks. They look at every Facebook post you've ever done, every credit card you've ever had, every automobile loan, anything you've ever bought, any place your name would come up with any financial institution anywhere, they find it during that 2 to 3 weeks. Takes some time. I had a deal fall apart a year ago ish, and the wife called me crying and said they just found out that we walked away from our loan in Colorado 5 years ago. We just said, take the house. We don't care. Go ahead and repossess it. Do whatever you want. So the bank went in and took the house. But that goes on their credit. And they found it during the underwriting, and they weren't able to use that company. I actually introduced them to Ross Mortgage, who I keep mentioning, and Bob Kalagher at Ross Mortgage figured it out and got them their loan with a really good rate, better than they already had. But anyway, the fully underwritten pre-approval, the point of it is all that work that we do, once your offer has been accepted, underwriting begins. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks. And the reason that from offer to closing is typically 30 to 45 days. Used to be 45 all the time. Now it's about 30 days. From the day your offer is accepted until we go to the closing table, it's usually 30 days. It's because underwriting takes all that time. But if we fully underwrite you right off the bat, then it only takes 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 2 weeks, 14-day close, because underwriting is done. So why doesn't everybody do it? So then we wouldn't have 30-day close, because lenders don't want to do it. It takes all their time, and then you turn out to, pardon the expression, you turn out to be a flake, you walk away, and they invested all that time, all those people on the phone, on the internet, back and forth with all these different companies, trying to fully underwrite you, trying to investigate you, and they did all that work for nothing. So with Ross Mortgage, they asked me to be very careful who I bring to them. So I'm going to get to know you. We're going to go look at a few houses together. And after we've had a reasonable amount of conversation, I'm going to say, how about if I get you fully underwritten with a pre-approval letter that says that you are good to go? So it's not going to take 30 days. Speed is one of the huge components of real estate. Everything needs to be fast, 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 fast. So this is one of the ways that we speed up the process, and that makes you more attractive to a seller. So that's the fully underwritten pre-approval. It's issued by Ross Mortgage's underwriting staff. The loan is fully underwritten with the exception of the P&S and appraisal. This results in a shorter closing time once the buyers have a property under agreement, and makes the buyer, that's you if you're the buyer, more attractive. So this brings us to the commitment letter. The commitment letter is the letter from the lender to you that says we have finished doing all of the underwriting, and underwriting is another word for investigating. We have done all the underwriting, and we are now in this letter letting you know that yes, you've made it through the underwriting process, and we are going to give you your loan. This is our commitment to you. So every buyer is waiting. They look like this, kneeling down beside their bed every night. They're waiting for their commitment letter. And the day we get the commitment letter, we jump around the office and step up on our desks and we turn the music on, because it's a big deal. Maybe we don't go that far. But a commitment letter is a huge deal, and it's a big part of the loan process. So commitment letter is a letter issued by the lender to the buyer. Typically, it's written into the initial contract that this commitment letter from the lender to the buyer will be issued approximately 7 days before closing or earlier. It's almost always 7 days. You can hang your hat on that. Or earlier, it is the letter that officially confirms that underwriting has been completed and the lender is indeed 100% committed to providing a loan for the buyer. So one little caveat, and you don't need to memorize this. All you need to know is you're waiting for the commitment letter, and it typically arrives through email attached as a PDF. Congratulations, your name. You have our commitment to give you this loan. So we're waiting for that commitment letter. So the commitment letter will on occasion have a bunch of small points, and it will say, this commitment letter is contingent on the following. And it will say, you have to show us proof that you have gotten a binder, that you have insurance on that home beginning the very first day of closing. After we're done, we walk away from the closing table, your insurance policy is in effect, because this loan company is going to shell out the $400,000 that you need to purchase that house. And if some terrible thing happens, like a terrible flood and it sweeps away, or a fire and it burns to the ground, you would shrug and say, I guess we lost the house. But it's the loan officer, the lender, the company, the mortgage company who's out all that money. So in every loan I've ever seen written, there's always the fine print language that says you will keep an insurance policy on this property from the very first day all the way until you've made all your payments. So that's one of the things they put in the commitment letter, and you're going to have to do it anyway. And you get told to do that by the underwriting department. They say, hey, your name, you need to find an insurance company and get a binder on this property. So then you go out, you find an insurance company, you say, I'm moving into this house at this address. How much will it cost for an insurance policy? And the more you spend, the more you get. So you can spend $100 and get the absolute bare bones, hardly anything is covered, with a huge deductible. The first $10,000 you have to pay. Or you can pay a lot more stuff is covered, and your deductible is lower. You have to pay the first $200 and the rest is covered by us, because your insurance payment is higher because you got a more robust insurance policy. But I digress. The commitment letter says, we're going to give you this loan. You just have to wrap up these little teeny tiny details. Sometimes there's none. And that brings us to the next thing. And the next thing is clear to close. Once we have the commitment letter, we're waiting for the underwriting department to contact you by email and say, congratulations, your name, you are clear to close, also known as CTC. Clear to close, those are the initials, clear to close, CTC. Clear to close is the final statement given to the buyer from the lender saying that the loan is now 100% finished and we are simply waiting for closing. This can sometimes occur on the same day as the commitment letter, because if there are no things that need to be taken care of in the commitment letter, this commitment letter is based on the following. You will get insurance on the property. You've already gotten the insurance. You've already paid all the little things. You've already given them all the information that they need. You've already paid the water bill and whatever these little tiny things are that they're asking, you've already done them all. So they don't put it in the commitment letter because you've already taken care of it. So if there's nothing with the commitment letter that needs to be followed up on, they will issue clear to close, CTC, on the same day or very close to the day of the commitment letter. This can sometimes occur on the same day as the commitment letter, or frequently there are several small terms and conditions written into the commitment letter that must be completed so that the entire process is ready to be closed out. When there are no conditions in the commitment letter, clear to close will frequently be issued on the same day as the commitment letter. So that's clear to close. So I made this goofy looking PowerPoint slide. I have negotiation skills, and you want to have somebody representing you that knows how to treat people, knows how to get along, knows how to negotiate. And often when a real estate agent will say, well, that's our final offer, take it or leave it, that one little statement right there destroys the entire deal. I couldn't make myself say take it or leave it. I couldn't say it. And I will often add language that wasn't given to me by the buyer. The buyer will say, tell them if they're not going to take 400, tell them 410. And if they don't take 410, tell them I don't want the stupid house. And I say, all right, I will let them know. So then I go back to the seller's agent and I say, my buyer has asked me to tell you, thank you so much for taking a look at our offer. And thank you for letting us look at that beautiful house. He is very excited to live there. And we both really hope that this will work out. He was wondering if he could possibly sweeten the deal and go another $10,000 higher. You said no to 400,000, and we understand and we admire your business acumen. We are wondering if 410,000 would be acceptable. And we have already spoken to his loan officer, and the loan officer said, oh, we do have room. We can go a little bit higher, but I fear that will be as high as he can go. So please let your seller know if your seller says no to 410, that could be as high as my buyer can go. So rather than say, take the 410,000 or keep the stupid house, you need to be a negotiator to get your buyer or your seller through the real estate transaction process. And that's where I feel I can help you if you allow me to lead the way. So I'm going to leave this page up for a few secs so you could quickly jot down Bob's number at Ross Mortgage or my number at Curtis Knight Real Estate. That's me, Curtis Knight. So I have no life except to serve you. I frequently say that to my clients who I love. You can search me, Curtis Knight Real Estate, on Google and see what people have to say about me. But anyway, I like to give information that you can use. That's why I feel I was put here. So you can contact me or you can contact Bob, and I know him well and he knows me well. Both of us are happy to stay on the phone with you, answer all your questions, tell you everything that we think we know, and help you any way we can. You don't have to pay us and you don't have to use us. We just like to be goodwill ambassadors. So if you have any questions, if it's about loans and stuff, usually he's the better guy to contact. And if it's about real estate, I'm usually the better guy to get in touch with. But you can call us interchangeably, and he's at his desk just about all day, every day, and so am I. I'm going to look at the clock. It's 7:19 p.m. while I'm putting this video together for you. So, all right, I will leave you with that. And please never hesitate to reach out. And I've had people that I work with for a year, 2 years, 2.5 years, and then they suddenly decide, you know what? I don't think we're going to buy a house. We're just going to stay where we are. And they call me to let me know, and they feel like I'm going to be angry and I'm going to yell and scream and say, what about all the time I put in with you? And what about all those questions I answered? And what about all those emails I replied to? And all that research that I did, and I showed you all these properties. That's all fine. That all goes with the job. So never hesitate to call us. All right, I will try to do this, and I will let you get back to your busy lives. I hope there was something in that presentation that might help you. All right, let me know how it goes. Thanks.